Family, good morning. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. This is Wake Up Bama. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about this morning. And I will be taking your calls at 10 a.m. Central Time. The college football playoff rankings were released on Tuesday night. And college football chairman Hunter Yurachek had this to say about Alabama right now. Florida State was up in that game, 24-7. They're talking about a game that happened way at the beginning of the season. And they held Alabama to less than 100 yards rushing in that game. Really, that was a sign of some struggles Alabama was going to have rushing the ball. I'm telling you, Alabama is being held to the stake for losing that game to Florida State. Let me ask you inside the comment box as we get the show going this morning. Do you feel that Alabama is still being penalized for that loss against Florida State? Or do you think it's kind of a combination of, some of the struggles that they're currently facing on the offensive side of the ball? I 100% think that, there's a lot of people that just feel once Alabama lost to Florida State and to see how Florida State has played this year, like the more losses that they have, the worse that loss looked for Alabama. And I don't necessarily look at I look at it differently. I looked at how Bama responded from that week one, right? They won 8 consecutive games. Nowhere was that mentioned that they won 8 consecutive games. Nowhere was it mentioned, or rarely, that they won 4 consecutive games. And most importantly, it's not mentioned that Alabama beat, I think, arguably the hottest team in the country right now, Georgia, in Athens. It's more about Alabama can't run the football. Really? That sounds like Bama fatigue to me. It really does. Here's a look at the college football playoff bracket right here. This was updated on Tuesday night. In the top matchup, you have Tulane, who's the highest ranked group of 5, taking on Texas Tech. You have Notre Dame taking on Oklahoma. You have Miami taking on Ole Miss at an 11 and a 6, and you have Alabama taking on Oregon. Initial takeaways, I was really shocked that Notre Dame is seated in a better position than Alabama. Notre Dame's in this bracket would be going on the road to Norman. But I just feel that when you look to Alabama and when you look to Notre Dame, how does Notre Dame have a better resume than that of Alabama? And I think as we move forward and depending on what happens with Alabama and how, these next couple of games shake out, there's going to be some teams that could potentially kick out an Alabama if Alabama doesn't run the table and win the SEC championship game. So let's continue. Number 4, the new addition is Georgia, clearly after their dominating performance against Texas, and rightfully so. That team's playing really well. They could even be number 3, considering the way that Texas A&M barely won. All right, Hunter Yurachek continued on Alabama. Check this out. You go back and look to Alabama's game against South Carolina when they scored 2 touchdowns late to win that game. The next game against LSU, where they won both of those but didn't rush the ball for 100 yards, again, against Oklahoma, was not able to move the ball on the ground. So my question is, since when did running the ball become part of the playoff equation? Because honestly, Alabama, I feel they're being penalized for maybe one of their weaknesses. You could point that out to a lot of teams. Like, a lot of teams have different weaknesses. Alabama's lack of run game, but does that mean that your running game is part of the playoff criteria? I didn't know that. If so, Bama's 100% cooked because they're ranked 123rd in the country. And I guess them having the 12th ranked passing game in the nation means less. Nowhere has it been mentioned about Ty Simpson's play, and I know right now everybody feels that Ty Simpson, all he does is throw interceptions. He has less interceptions than Julian Sain and then Fernando Mendoza. Those are facts, okay? He's thrown 2 interceptions and 22 touchdowns, but all we talk about is fumbles and interceptions with Ty Simpson. That's all he does, right? The entire body of work is nothing. Him going down to Athens and beating Georgia and winning 8 consecutive games, 4 in a row against top 25 teams, we throw that out the window, right? I guess so. I don't know. But damn, that's powerful right there, is saying that the next game against LSU, where they won both those but didn't rush the ball for 100 yards, and again against Oklahoma not being able to run the ball, running the ball is the lack of run game is really hurting Alabama. That is really surprising. Not that they pointed out that, again, tied through for 326 against Oklahoma. It's just about, hey, you didn't run that ball for 100 yards, you're going to be penalized. Max Chadwick, a Pro Football Focus, brought this up in regards to Alabama and Notre Dame. Now, as you know, Notre Dame's in a better spot right now on this way too early bracket. He says this: Alabama's wins against current top 25 teams: Georgia, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Missouri. Now, I get it. Notre Dame just beat Pittsburgh, but come on. Pittsburgh really a top 25 team? No. But the only current top 25 win that they have is against USC. And look, USC, they have a great opportunity to beat Oregon this weekend, but still, those are the facts. So help me understand this in regards to Alabama and Notre Dame, okay? Because I think what is happening here, and I'll go back to the bracket so you can see the bracket. Maybe you're in bed. Maybe you're getting your day started. Maybe you're at the gym. I don't know. But does this mean that Notre Dame's losses hurt them less, like losing to Miami and losing to Texas A&M, right? Those are top 12 teams. But I do feel that Bama's being, really penalized still for something that happened way back. And shoot, didn't they play in, was it an early September game? I mean, shoot, we're almost to have Thanksgiving dinner, and they're still being penalized for something that happened way back in, the beginning of the season. I don't think that's right. They've lost 2 games as well. Alabama's lost 2 games, and Miami's lost 2 games. This is what I'm scared of, fam. What if this happens? What if Miami finishes out 10-2? No ACC title game, right? And what if Alabama beats Eastern Illinois and they beat Auburn and they get into the SEC title game? And they lose that game to either Georgia or A&M, right? The committee would judge them theoretically on one shared data point, which is each team has a common opponent, which is Florida State. And Miami beat Florida State, and Florida State beat Bama. Could that mean that Bama's kicked out if they're 10-3 to Miami? And this is I've been talking about this, fam. I've been talking about this for a long time. What if, I'm telling you, BYU. Watch BYU, I promise you. Because think about this. Notre Dame right now, they're not being penalized because they lost to 2 top 12 teams, right? Miami and A&M beat them. They're like, those aren't bad losses. Well, what about BYU? What happens if BYU finishes the season 11-2 and their only 2 losses are to top 5 Texas Tech? I mean, those are, I guess better losses than what Notre Dame has. And what if this scenario happens? What if BYU wins the Big 12 and Texas Tech stays alive? Like, there's no way a 2-loss Texas Tech team all of a sudden is just going to get kicked out of the playoffs. They love BYU and they love Texas Tech. The SEC might not get 5 teams in. They really, if this scenario happens, and I don't think BYU beats Texas Tech, but who the hell knows, right? And right now, the team I think most at risk of being squeezed out by maybe a Miami and a BYU is a 10-3 Bama. So Bama's 100% chance to make the college football playoffs. They have to be able to beat Eastern Illinois, they have to beat Auburn, and they have to win the SEC championship game. Now, there's kind of a debate going on right now that says if you don't win your SEC championship game, you're going to be penalized. I think that Bama will be penalized because Bama will have 3 losses. I really do. And they'll say, look, you lost to Florida State. And do you really think that Alabama's going to somehow just magically get a running game going? That might just not be part of their game. They might just be pass heavy, and that's just it. And we don't like that, but they won 8 consecutive games with that offense. But if they don't win that game and they're finished 10-3, I honestly feel, do you feel, yes or no, that if they finish 10-3, they will be penalized for losing the SEC title game? I do. Because BYU, they'd finish 11-2 if they lost. Miami, they not even going to play for an ACC championship game based off the standings. They finished 10-2. Notre Dame don't even play in a conference championship game. They finished 10-2. Hey, sorry, we don't even play in a conference. We got to make the playoffs. I think they'd be penalized. So, kind of what I learned from tonight's latest college football playoff rankings is that Notre Dame's losses, they mean less. right? They lost to Texas A&M. They lost to Miami. Not a big deal. Bama losing to Florida State still leaves a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And Florida State is always messing things up, man. Either for themselves or now even for Bama, right? Their problems are leaking over into Alabama. We didn't know they're going to have a crash out. That loss is bad. And you know what? I think with like the Oklahoma loss, I can take that loss. That loss sucked. But Oklahoma's a good football team, and I think I truly feel Alabama beat itself. But like Florida State, they beat Alabama. They outplayed them, they outcoached them. They look faster, right? So, yeah. That's not a good loss. Bama's lack of running game is hurting them with the playoff committee, which is crazy because I didn't even know that you had to have a good running game to make the playoffs, but apparently you do. So, I don't know. Maybe you run for 500 yards this week against Eastern Illinois, come out with some wishbone, a wing tee, I don't know, flex bone, and run the ball. Run the ball, because clearly the committee wants Alabama to be able to run the ball. Maybe they're just saying, hey, we want this team to be a more complete team. Still 8-2. Ask Georgia if they're a complete team. Right? I don't know. I'm sure Kirby Smart, would have some things to say about Alabama. In fact, he did. He already said a lot of good things about Alabama, but I don't know. And BYU and Miami are definitely teams to watch in terms of how those teams finish out and teams that could, prevent Alabama from making the playoffs. If Alabama even gets to the SEC title game, it finishes out like 10-3. I know. At the end of the day, you could just live in the world and be like, it's all going to work out. But I think you have to realize that Miami and BYU, they're going to have good resumes, and those are teams that could squeeze out Bama. I think other issues outside of the running game that probably the committee is talking about when they're in closed doors is the quarterback fumbles. That's an issue. The right side of the offensive line, that's been a chronic issue for Bama. The run game, as mentioned, and of course, the kicking game. So maybe they're saying inside the committee room, they're like, hey, look, this team still controls its own destiny, but until they really play like a playoff team, they're kind of like a bubble team. And they're in right now at 10, but they're being watched. They're being watched. That running game is being watched 100%. Kind of switching gears here. The college football coaching carousel has started. And you know that this happens every year. It happened every year under Coach Saban. It's going to start to happen under Coach Kalen DeBoer. The more success that Coach Kalen DeBoer has, you're going to see his assistants be in positions to take other jobs. Like, that's just how it works. So Kane Wommack has been mentioned for a head coaching job at Oklahoma State. I do feel that Kane Wommack will eventually be a head football coach, but I don't think it'll be at Oklahoma State. I think if Kane's patient and he finishes out this year really strong, maybe even comes back another year and shows that he can have consistency with Alabama's defense in that aspect, he may land a home run type job. I don't think Oklahoma State right now is a home run type job. It's a big job, right? Big 12, but I think bigger things could be on the horizon for Kane. Super young dude. He's got the defense really cooking right now, and if the defense can stay consistent, he'd be probably up for some major awards. So Oklahoma State, probably not it, but I'm not going to be shocked when he's another head football coach. I mean, he was just a head football coach a couple years ago at South Alabama. So props to him. Happy for him. He'll get his name called. And I think another coach that could get his name called, and I'll talk about him in a minute, maybe two more guys, Mo Lindquist for Alabama, the secondary coach, and I think Ryan Grubb. I'll talk about those guys in a minute. But a name that really is kind of picking up some steam right here with Oregon State is JaMarcus Shepard. So JaMarcus Shepard, who has a title as co-offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach here at the University of Alabama, he's done a great job with the Alabama wide receivers, right? I mean, you look at how they're playing. You look at that group overall. You look at this man in terms of the energy that he has and kind of just how he carries himself. He's got that juice, right? So I don't know. Again, I don't know how serious this is, if he's going to go out even for an in-person type interview, but this is happening, and they are targeting him, at least, kind of gauging that level, and that's JaMarcus Shepard for Oregon State. Again, I would like to see JaMarcus, before he goes on to a head coaching job, maybe become a big-time OC. Like, right now you have Ryan Grubb, and he's co. But if he went somewhere else and became the main offensive coordinator, shoot, he could be the OC if Ryan Grubb takes a job, right? And then you kind of leap from there. I don't know if Oregon State puts you in a great position to win a lot of football games. So something that we're watching. Jam Miller, Alabama's running back, spoke to the media on Tuesday. He had this to say: I basically take blame from last game, talking about the running game, for last week. We got to flush that, work on what we need to work on, and just get better. This is getting serious, fam, right? I mean, Alabama ranks 123rd in the run game, and it's not only a serious issue like week by week, but the nation is penalizing Bama for the lack of run game. So this team is 100% one-dimensional, stuck in the mud, and it's hurting them even from a college football playoff ranking standpoint. There's not a lot to say about the Alabama run game other than it's been frustrating. And it's not like Daniel Hill has done a lot different than Jam. And Jam is, he really hasn't been himself since Missouri. Kevin Riley, we haven't seen him. Richard Young, where's he been? And we're all been waiting in the pumpkin patch for AK Deer to play. So that's kind of where we stand from the Alabama running game. Really big disappointment this year, to be honest. LT Overton was asked kind of about the mindset of this group right now, and he said, look, the message has been the same. It's a faceless opponent. That's the type of mentality that you want from a defensive leader, right, taking on an opponent like Eastern Illinois. As you know, Coach Saban, it was 10 years ago when he said this, like, look, I'm not taking the week off, whether we're playing Charleston Southern or we're playing whoever. He's like, remember when we played Georgia and they ripped us, right? Ran through us like a tin horn. That famous quote. So it doesn't matter the type of opponent. You're going to get your best from absolutely everybody. But with that said, I think Louisiana Monroe would probably score 50 on this Eastern Illinois team. So that's why I've been talking kind of some rat poison players I'm excited to see. And we got some Alabama basketball today, a big-time game for Nate Oates and his crew as Alabama takes on number 8 Illinois. How crazy is that? Last week, Alabama played, Purdue and Oklahoma, and this week, Alabama plays 2 teams from the state of Illinois, right? Yeah, Illinois, so Alabama will be up in Champaign, taking on the number 8 Fighting Illini, following a loss to Purdue, which was 87-80. Try to have a bounce back against another top 10 team, and then, does it get easier? No, because for Thanksgiving week, you take on Gonzaga. All right, that's the type of schedule Nate Oates likes to roll with. So that game will be on 8 p.m. and Fox Sports 1 at 8 p.m. All right, so that's the time for Alabama basketball. And, of course, as news happens, we got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. So that's kind of where we enter the day, which is Wednesday, November 19th. As news happens, I got you covered right here on Bama Football on YouTube. A lot to talk about on today's call-in show at 10 a.m. Central Time. So call in the show. Let me know your thoughts on the college football playoff rankings, on the state of the program right now for Alabama football, and eager to hear your thoughts and more right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Good morning, fam. Hope you're off to a good start. Catch you soon on the live.